All right, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting show of the About That Why podcast. You know what it is, time to learn a little bit about the education of finances. See you in about 2 minutes. Oh, well, hello there. Welcome to the About That Water podcast show. So, today we have quite a bit to talk about because there's always something to talk about finances, and it's about your personal finances. One of the cool things that I would like to talk about, which is first, we need to understand the definitions. And I love going over definitions first. So, you might be wondering, well, what are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about the inflation. And as you see, I'm constantly keep looking to my left. It's because I'm pulling up all my definitions. So I'll actually bring them over here. The first thing about definition that we want to talk about is inflation. Can everybody type in inflation in the chat right quick? So, inflation is the increase of general prices of goods and services in the economy. Now, we also need to know the opposite side, which is deflation, which is conservative. Conversely, is the general decline in prices for goods and services indicated by the inflation rate that falls below 0%. Now, both can be potentially bad for the economy depending on the underlying reasons and the rate of the prices changes. Now, all this information I'm reading is from Investopedia. For guys of you who are familiar with it, it's an awesome tool just to kind of give you those information. So, as you saw in some of the things that we talked about, the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, that kind of gives you like a broad sense of what the economy is doing pretty much from month to month, and it does come out each month. So for you who didn't know, I think the last one was like I think they did it about on the 17th. So maybe today, the one could have came out today. I did not check that one, but looking at the inflation, I mean June kind of slowed down. It was pretty much stagnant based on what was happening in May. So a lot of people are worried about that. People are going to start consuming a little bit less. So those one of the things that we want to start looking into. So why am I talking about inflation? Why does it matter to you? Well, one of the cool things about inflation is that it could be beneficial to some degree, but also you don't want a deflation also. So it's just you gotta find that sweet balance. Like they say, if you have too much water, you could drown. If you have too little water, you can still die, but you'll be dying of dehydration. So let's talk about what is the good thing about inflation. So if the inflation is really good, that means that things can kind of slow down a bit. Um, and it will actually look pretty interesting to see how we can actually pay for our food. Let's think about it in a sense like you as a homeowner or you as a consumer noticing, like, the price of my goods, which is like my shirt. Say you go, not shirt, say your groceries. Your groceries, your typical bill is about $200. Now, with inflation, it can actually go up to about $220. And you not even notice it. It's a small pinch, but it's actually good for your local economy because the taxes are a little higher, which means that the schools, the fire department, the local law enforcement, and your sewer, plumbing, water, and all that stuff like that, they actually get a little bit of income to show that to provide these services to you at a lower cost because now that they actually get an influx, things could be running a little better. Also, for those of you who own your home, with the inflation of the housing market, you can actually start reaping some of those benefits because you can look at it now, just say, I really wanted that deck built, but I don't think I have the money. But because now that your house is valued at a higher rate, you should be able to go ahead on and withdraw about up to 80% of the value of your loan. Usually it's up to the value of the property of up to up to 80% of what the home value is at that time frame. So that is one of the cool things about the inflation. Um, and some of the times we got to worry about now with the deflation, which again is the understanding that, it's the decline in prices and goods, which means that if things are declining so quickly, that could be hurtful. Meaning, say that those groceries that you start with the $200, it drops down to now $180 for your food. So it might be a big win for you, right? But also think about those taxes on the other end. You're not paying as many taxes, which means that some of the school systems are going to have less books and less resources to actually provide for the students as in your local area. Then also you're looking into the losing of the process of, local law enforcement and so forth. So all of these things are connected to some degree where everybody pitch in a little bit to supply your environment. Now, if the money is so low, which means you're not getting, if it goes too low, then you're like, well, everything is super cheap, but I can't really do anything because I don't even really have a job because I they don't have enough money um to pay for your goods and services anymore because things have gotten so low and it's just doesn't work out. So those are the definitions that I want you to understand as we go through. And I want to welcome everybody as they come on in because it's going to be quite a ride today because we got a lot that's happening. What's going on? What's going on, Carla? Welcome to the show. Inflation. So if you guys type in inflation, thank you. If you're typing in deflation, what up, Sophia? Thank you for joining. Now, so we got that out the way, right? And you thinking like, man, what's Anthony talking about today? Because normally I don't talk about the news. I try to stay out the news because so much stuff happening. I'm just tired of, it could last a little bit, but I try to keep things that are about 6 months or so relevant. And because this is actually new and it just passed, which is the Inflation Act. I wanted to wait to talk about this, but I think it's time to talk about it because a lot has been happening. Let me pull up this article right quick, this video, so you all can hear this as I hear it too. I thought it was actually pretty interesting. So you can actually see the White House floor and all of that fun stuff. All right, so hold tight. Just let me know if you can hear it.
Winding road. But at last, we have arrived. I know it's been a long day and a long night, but we've gotten it done. Today, after more than a year of hard work, the Senate is making history. I am confident the Inflation Reduction Act will endure as one of the defining legislative feats of the 21st century. To the tens of millions of young Americans who have spent years marching, rallying, demanding that Congress act on climate change, this bill is for you. The time has come to pass this historic bill. I ask.
The question is on passage of H.R. 5376 as amended.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll. The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being equally divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative, and the bill as amended is passed.
Okay, so that's one of the things that they talked about. So that's just passing of the bill. And they showing on here that I thought was interesting. So they talk about all of these things as far as their top goals, and includes $80 billion in rebates, including as much as $14,000 in money back, helping households pay for green energy upgrades. Okay, so then they also talk about subsidies cover a range of improvements, including the efficient heat pumps per household, electric water heaters, and electric cooktops. Homeowners, keep this in mind. Homeowners can also receive a 30% credit for installation of solar panels. Now, I wanted to pause here because this is interesting. We all know that most people actually are renters, which is something to think about. As most of us, I don't say most of us, but people that are listening could be renters. And if you own a property, one of the things about being a renter is that we got to look into how in the world are we going to maintain or bring down the inflation. I looked at this and realized that homeowners could actually raise rents even higher. Main reason because they was like, cool, we're going to go ahead on and update everything. We're going to update the installation. We're going to update the appliances. We're going to add solar panels. We're going to make your house look amazing, right? Everybody wants those cool amenities. But then you realize they got to do upgrade on the rent. And we already got a lot of people complaining about the rent because their jobs aren't paying that much. A lot of people are switching their jobs. A lot of people have already quit their jobs and just still trying to figure out what the heck is happening. And I don't know what to do. People, give me your suggestions. What do you guys think about this? This is actually really interesting as we go through here because, for those of you who are homeowners, yay for you, right? But what about the renters? I don't think they talk about the renters at all. Now, for those of you who are looking for a new vehicle, those sound cool, right? So you get some incentives. You actually get $7,500 for buying a new vehicle for next year, like a new electric vehicle. And then also one of the cool things is that they give you $4,000 in credit for people who buy used electric vehicles. Now, if you think about it, these car companies could actually just raise their prices just a slight bit. So they make some money on the back end and just like, hey, with this new incentive, you can go ahead on and get these new vehicles. Come on down to Joe's. I don't know. What do you call it? come on down to Anthony's car show or car shack. I don't know. I'm not that cool with names. But these are the things you got to think about. Like, now the funny thing is that you need to figure out what does it mean for each of these EVs. Now, this footprint that they talked about, they actually had a list. There we go. I wanted to see which ones are eligible because there was a full list somewhere. I did not have it saved. I do apologize. But there's a full list of some of these manufacturers that are allowed to sell their vehicles because some of them have already reached their limit. You cannot get a Model Y. You cannot get a vehicle that's over 80,000 in electric vehicles. So they say it's nice, but you're also limited. So these are the things I want you to kind of think about. Like, what is this bill really doing? It's almost as I'm reading it, just looking at it, it just sounds like it's forcing inflation at this point instead of decreasing inflation on what it's supposed to do. I mean, you guys tell me. What do you guys think? Because I don't see the difference here. I don't see the savings that they're talking about. Maybe they're talking about for the middle class, which then further separates the middle class from the lower class, especially when it comes to finances. So on top of that, will this actually be an incentive for people to go ahead on and go out and buy homes? I do have a lot of questions. Where D3 at with the questions? But what do you guys think out there? It's really entertaining to see how this is going to work out. Okay, LS says expands Medicare benefits for free vaccines. $35 a month for insulin to 2023. Caps out of pocket for drug costs to an estimate $4,000 or less in 2024 and settling $2,000 in 2025. Now that's good for Medicare. But what about your housing? Where are you going to live? You can talk about you saving on medical, but not everybody is dealing with the medical side of the house. Yes, you're reaching some, but are you going to reach others? And that's one of the things that is if you look at the 4 pillars that you need to survive. Well, I think it's the hierarchy of needs. What was it? Yeah, priority items. It's called billing or budgeting items. All right. I like Dave Ramsey's one because he actually break his down. Keep it nice and simple. That's why I like Dave. He talks about giving and all that fun stuff. Household. There we go. So you got your utilities, your housing costs, your transportation, and your food. So these are the 4 things that usually are the core of your budget, right? Now you can start looking at health and healthcare. So that is one of the things that we can kind of discuss, but I really think this energy bill is focused on the middle class when it comes to the housing side of the house. Now, this is actually from the congress.gov because I was actually looking at the summary side of the house. And they talk about the stock options, the corporate tax reform, to try to make sure that people pay their fair share. Here go the drug price negotiations that LS was mentioning earlier. So we also got commodity regulation. It could be. For those of you who don't know what commodity is, let's go and check out commodity. So yes, I do have dark mode. So for those of you who don't like dark mode, I do. So the commodity, which is a raw material or primary agricultural product that can be bought or sold, such as copper and coffee. A useful or valuable thing such as water or time. Now, talking about how to average that out would be nice. Oh, hey, baby. Thanks for joining the show. Lindsay. So let's see. Improvements, out of pocket. Nah, we got some things going on there. I mean, this is something that we got to think about here. Income above the 400% of the poverty line. This is going to be interesting. I don't know. You guys, I really think this is going to be something that we all going to have to take a look into. And I'm going to have to bring back on the tax lady to kind of talk about some of these changes and how it's going to impact your taxes come the end of the year. Now, we only have about 4 months left, right? So it's the last quarter of the year. And because it is the last quarter of the year, we got to start thinking about, well, how do we want to offset our expenses? How do we want to start making some of that money back by the end of the year so that we don't have to pay that much in taxes? So, and like I said, this is some of the stuff that they talk about the Department of Energy, or DOE, offshore wind, electricity, and modeling and analysts. It's so much in this bill that they summarize it all. But let's see what good old Biden has to say about this bill being signed. Let's see what he has to say.
The Inflation Reduction Act does so many things that for so many years, so many of us have fought to make happen. And let's be clear. In this historic moment, Democrats sided with the American people, and every single Republican in the Congress sided with the special interest in this vote. Every single one. In fact, the big drug companies spent nearly $100 million to defeat this bill. $100 million. And remember, every single Republican in Congress voted against this bill. Every single Republican in Congress voted against lowering prescription drug prices, against lowering healthcare costs, against the fairer tax system. Every single Republican, every single one, voted against tackling the climate crisis, against lowering our energy costs, against creating good-paying jobs. My fellow Americans, that's the choice we face. We can protect the already powerful, or show the courage to build a future where everybody has an even shot. That's the America I believe in. Okay. Here you go.
It's now law.
Okay, so now that that's signed, it's one of those things that you got to think about.
Remember how last week the
didn't mean that to play. Sorry, guys. Let's keep it moving. So keeping these things, and he's talking about creating jobs and so forth. Out of some of the things that are being highlighted, I'm wondering what jobs is he talking about? Because we could talk about how people are going to go to work and start putting some roofs on the houses. We can talk about car salesmen selling cars. And more than likely, we can talk about the pharmaceutical companies making more money. So how are we going to make that happen? It's one of the things that we got to think about as we go on. So, yeah, I'm looking at so many things because everybody is just kind of harping on this. And let's play this last one, and then we can kind of go from here, right?
President Biden has signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law.
This action marks a major victory for the president's domestic agenda. less than 3 months before midterm elections. President Biden interrupted his summer vacation to sign the massive climate, health, and tax bill at the White House this afternoon. The House of Representatives approved the Democrat-backed plan Friday following its passage in the Senate earlier this month.
Today offers further proof that the soul of America is vibrant, the future of America is bright, and the promise of America is real and just beginning.
Joining us now is CBS News political contributor Sean Sullivan. Hi, Sean. So tell us a little bit more about the Inflation Reduction Act, why it's so significant. What does it accomplish?
Well, this act is something that Democrats have been talking about for many, many years on two fronts, accomplishing something on healthcare and accomplishing something on climate change. And for the past few years, Democrats have been frustrated that a lot of these priorities that they've put at the front burner of their agenda have been beyond their reach. And
So that's interesting that, they passed two things, but at what cost? And that's what I want to challenge you today is kind of think about what are the costs of this process happening? Like all of the signing and so forth. What does it really mean?
it just hasn't worked out. And it looked late last year when they were zeroing in on this big sweeping climate and social spending initiative that they were getting close. And then it all fell apart and it looked like, look, they were not going to get this done. Now, this plan is less ambitious and less sweeping than what they talked about.
Did a bunch of different things.
I'm going to just kind of skip through here because they talk about a lot of other things and I didn't want to get too boring.
Very stark contrast in the making right now, politically speaking, between Democrats touting this bill and Republicans opposing it.
And so, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act has become law less than 3 months before the midterm elections, which is certainly good news for Democrats, right? How significant of an impact, though, will it have on voters? I mean, there's no mistake to the fact that it's called the Inflation Reduction Act, right? They could have named it a bunch of different things, but that's clearly trying to, you know, take aim at voters.
And I don't think it's going to be really an inflation reduction. I think it's going to be lock in inflation for other things, honestly.
Yeah, the really big question now is how, or a really big question, I should say, is how this will translate politically, given that these midterm elections are fast approaching. I think when you talk to Democrats about this, they think that this could potentially change the dynamic. They see the last few months and they see their candidates having to play a lot of defense, having to explain.
Yeah. So now they're getting more wishy-washy. But, you know, that's one of the things that we got to think about as consumers and as we go throughout our day is how are we going to reflect on inflation and actually locking in some of these prices. Again, like I said, it's one of those things that I'm worried about is how is it going to impact the environment? How is this really going to save us in the long run? These are some of the questions that I want you to start thinking about as listeners of the show. Again, these are just thoughts that are in my head, you know, because I'm trying to figure out like what is it that we could be doing to kind of leverage this new bill. You know, everything comes with the price. They talk about how everything is going to be nice and easy. It's going to be lowering some things, but you got to help out the business. It's a tough thing to follow. So I just want you guys to think about that today as we go through our lives and so forth. All right, everybody. It's about 8:30. So you know what time it is. Let's go. If you guys are ready for drinks, please type in drinks. I don't think I got my drinks. Do I have my drink? Nobody for drinks? Oh, well, whatever. It's my show. The only thing about it is that I have no alcoholic beverage. So, I guess I'll be drinking this body drink that I've been having this whole time. So what are you guys drinking out there today? You know what? Let's bring it down because I know they've been kicking me out on this with this song. They actually start editing everything. They what? Yeah, they edit so much out of here. It's funny. All right. Let's see what we got. You know. Okay. So let's see. Get some of these tunes in here. I think I do like this song. But some of these songs came in low, so. All right. So I'm gonna start taking some of you guys' calls. If you guys want to go on and call in, I'll put the phone number up here. I just want to take some of your financial questions because I actually think it's pretty nice. And thank you guys for hanging in there. Let's see. Since I got it hooked up, I think you guys probably already got the phone number by heart. By now. Ooh, the Mango Gamer Subs. Never heard of that. Let's see, Mango Gamer Subs. Huh. Never heard of this drink. Interesting. Oh, it's like a Gatorade almost? What? We got our first caller. Hold on. Let's see. Why is it not showing? Ah. Hello. Hey, I can hear you, but just hold on tight because I'm trying to figure out why it's not connecting to my device. I thought I had it connected. There we go. All right, can you hear me now?
I could hear you before.
Oh, well, now everybody else online can hear you. So, what is your name?
Hi, my name is Lindsay, longtime listener, first time caller.
Hey.
Second time caller.
Well, welcome to the show, Lindsay. What is
Thanks.
your money question for today?
I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to comment on the inflation discussion you were having earlier.
Okay.
Mostly that inflation is kind of a fact of life. I don't think there's really any way to truly reduce it or stop it. I think the issues we're seeing now are just so stark because so much has gone up in so short a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think your points are valid that the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't really seem to do much to reduce inflation, but it seems like it's trying to at least help absorb the blows that we as citizens are taking as things do go up. So it's not really addressing like the increase in the cost of food or whatever, but for those of us who do have medical bills or co-pays and things like that, I think that the caps that are in the bill go a long way to helping people out, because really it's really about like basically how far you can stretch your dollar. So if your dollar isn't stretching as far, then that's, I feel like, what we would call inflation. So even if you can help in one area, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, and medical is one of those high parts that a lot of people do complain about, especially because they probably lost their jobs and they don't have as much income. So this would be a good win for them.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
And plus, any one of us could end up with some kind of medical issue at any time.
definitely.
So I don't think it's useful to make it an us versus them kind of thing.
Right.
We're all one car accident or slip and fall away from needing medical care or prescription or something like that.
It's so so true. So true. Awesome. Thank you so much for the call. Do you have some words of advice for people that are out there before you hang up?
Not really. Advice giving is not my forte per se. But
Unsolicited
I
advice.
just wanted to share that about the inflation.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I guess unsolicited advice is the key aspect there. It's not really my ministry.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for continuing to listen to the About That Water podcast show and being a long-term listener, second time caller.
No problem.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right. So we had our first caller for the night. Those of you who want to call, come on, call. Give me your thoughts. Have some questions. You got some money questions. I'm all ears. We got our drinks. Got a little bit of tunes. Because we are talking about inflation. We're talking about how, life happens. So as we wait for callers, I do have a quote here that I actually thought would be fitting for today's topic. And it says here, why you're either the solution or the problem. Omission bias. And I thought that was actually interesting. Because it's really talking about either you're a solution or you're the problem. And I'm going to read here the scenario that they have here. You're on a glacier with two climbers. The first slips and falls into a crevice. He might survive if you call for help, but you don't, and he perishes. The second climber, you actively push into a ravine, and he dies shortly afterwards. Which weighs more heavily on your conscience? Considering your options rationally, it's obvious that both are equally reprehensible and resulting as they do in death for your companions. And yet, something makes us rate the first option, the passive option, as least horrible. This feeling is called omission bias. It crops up where both action and inaction lead to cruel consequences. In such cases, we tend to prefer inaction. It results seem more anodyne. So I want you guys to think about that when you go about your life and go out there in the world. Are your actions, are you actually, I guess you could say, omitting the situation by not saying anything? Or you just kind of like, I act like I didn't see it. I'm not going to go help. I'm not going to call anybody, and I'm going to just keep moving. And that's what I want to think about. Because I'm trying to think about like some of these philosophical things as we go along with our finances. How are we actually mending the things that we see? Do we have people, or as in this scenario, climbers, that are actually trying to grow their finances, and we actually see them fall? And instead of calling somebody that we know that are in the financial realm that could possibly help them out, we actually just let them continue to slip and fall until they completely go broke, and then just keep walking away as if we never seen them before in our lives. Or secondly, you sabotage, which in a sense, you actually take away someone's opportunity to grow and just let them slip and fall. And you don't wind up saving them or providing them any assistance. I want you to go out there and think about that. Either you can be part of the solution or you're going to be part of the problem. All right, since we don't have any phone calls and we talked about everything that was on here, I think we're all good to go. I don't want to hold you guys up. All right, everybody. It's going to be a short one tonight. So I'm out. I mean, please be safe out there. It's a lot that's happening. So make sure you know about your taxes. It's tax season coming up. So make sure you take about at least 30 minutes. These are my suggestions for today. Is that you take about 30 minutes and really look at your budget. Look at the things that you've purchased in the last month. This is the middle of August, so some of the stuff is just fresh, and also you might have just got your first paycheck for the month to start paying your bills. So this is a perfect time to sit down and look at what are you spending your money on. So I want to wish you all the best. Be safe. I'm out. Peace. Let me see if I can get my little outro here. All right. See ya.